And then finally, Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin ready for prime time? Bitcoin is ready for prime time because it's serving a huge unmet need. Now, in the US, when we were the first asset manager, the first public asset manager in, I think, the world to gain exposure to Bitcoin through the Bitcoin Investment Trust in 2015 when it was at $250. As you know, today I think it's close to $9,000, having round trip from 20,000 to 3. So we're still in very early days. But what we're already beginning to see is it serves for low-cost remittances and for faster trade settlements. I've always wondered, as an investor, I can trade something in a millisecond and maybe thousands of milliseconds, but it still takes 2 days to settle. That doesn't make any sense. There are too many toll collectors, too many middlemen around the way, along the way. That is going to change. Australia is going to launch its blockchain solution, I think, in a year or so. It's quite delayed. But we do believe that is the way these markets are going to go. As far as remittances, we are already seeing solutions, I know, from South Korea to the Philippines. The remittance market is a $600 billion market, even though Western Union and others charge 8%, and in some cases, I've heard in Nigeria, for example, 25% to send money back home. So it's ridiculously expensive. Ultimately, what we think the Bitcoin blockchain is going to do specifically is allow for much cheaper. It's money over IP. Think voice over IP. I don't know if many of you remember, but technology futurists were saying, when my parents lived in California and I lived in New York, voice is going to be free. And I was thinking, yeah, bring it on, because it was very expensive to call. Today, I have 3 children. They're in their 20s. They cannot believe I ever paid for a phone call, right? Sounds crazy, but that was voice over IP. This is money over IP. It's going to become the free transmission of money over IP. And we do think the Bitcoin blockchain is the most secure out there and will be the biggest enabler for this. Ready for prime time, the Bitcoin blockchain last year accommodated $1.3 trillion in transactions. Now, this is not trading activity. This is transactions. The Bitcoin blockchain is completely transparent. So you can follow an IP address and figure out the transactions. 1.3 trillion is more than twice PayPal's network. So and PayPal is very well developed in the United States, and it is spreading internationally. So how did this happen? In the United States, many investors don't believe this number. And it's because we're not seeing this in the US. The huge unmet need is not in the US, at least not yet. It's in Venezuela, where those people, the people in that country, are losing their purchasing power. It's collapsing around them. Terrible monetary policy, terrible fiscal policy, and that's where you're seeing it around the world. We've done studies on confiscation of wealth. I think if the princes in Saudi Arabia had understood what was going to happen to them, they might have had a private key number in their head and had some assets on the Bitcoin blockchain, because those would not have been confiscated. No one would have known about them. So if we've done lots of studies, and just that application alone, confiscation of wealth, if you take the highest net wealth individuals in the world and you make the assumption that they're trying to hedge against a 5% chance that their wealth will be confiscated, that alone, and I'm talking about not that many people in the world, that alone would be a $2.7 trillion opportunity for a Bitcoin blockchain. The other huge unmet need is in countries where cross-border trading, and I know this is true in Africa, where cross-border trading is very, very expensive just because of the currency conversions. So if you look at the average transaction size in that $1.3 trillion of transactions, it's $15,000. And some will quip, oh yeah, that's drug money. The drug money is not on the Bitcoin blockchain anymore because it's too transparent. It's going more to the dark chains, Zcash perhaps, but not to Bitcoin. No, these we believe are business-to-business transactions. It's B2B. And we're pretty excited about what the Bitcoin blockchain future holds. We do believe there will only be a few cryptocurrencies. Now, right now, there are more than 2,000 crypto assets. We believe there will only be 2, 3, or 4 cryptocurrencies, much like we see now. The reserve currency today in the world is the dollar. We know now from the crash that we saw from $20,000 to $3,000 that Bitcoin's market share of the crypto asset ecosystem went from the low 30s to up to now 60. That is what happens during a flight to safety. The world reverts to the reserve currency. The reserve currency of the crypto asset ecosystem, we believe, is Bitcoin. And there will be a few more currencies, just like there are the yuan, the euro, the yen. So we do believe, and we're looking for those. But we also believe that most of the 2,000 crypto assets in the world today will be pretty worthless because the velocity, it's back to velocity, an economic concept here. The velocity of many of them is going to be enormous because those who are working in the crypto asset ecosystem are always going to default to the reserve currency. And we do think that will be Bitcoin.